So we've got 11 to 12, and then what? 12 to 12:30.
Danielle, are you there?
I am. Yep.
Okay. We are ready when you are.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Hey, Leanne. This is Annie. I've noticed that under the Save the Dates file, I think some people are trying to click the link in there. So I typed on that document for them to go to the post made on January 21st and click the link that way. Just want to let you know that I did that if you see that on that document.
Okay, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
And Karen Underwood and I have told them that you do the control click. So I think we're good there.
Sorry about that, Danielle. We're ready now.
No worries. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Danielle Olson, and I'm going to go ahead and spotlight myself so you guys can see me front and center. And I am a Microsoft Learning Consultant. I actually am based in Houston, Texas. Well, Katy, which is outside of Houston, Texas. And before I got into this role, I was actually a high school English teacher in Florida. So I am a Florida native, but I've only really bounced from Florida to Texas because I love my husband. So here we are. But I taught high school English, and I also worked for our professional development department in Florida as well. And we were a Microsoft district and used all things Office 365, and I fell in love with the product. So I'm really excited to bring you, the latest and greatest tools and help support your needs as speech and language pathologists. So I really want to spend some time today looking at some of the features inside of Teams meetings that are going to help you support the students that you work with. And I'll be doing a lot of demoing. And I know that you guys have turned your cameras off, but one of the things that I like to show first and foremost in a Teams meeting, if you've not seen it before, are all of the different gallery views. So all of the different ways that you can see your students when you're working with them, either in a group setting or in an individual setting. So if you are comfortable, I would love for you to turn your cameras on so we can see everybody. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen so that you guys can see what I see. My device is running really slow this morning. I'm sorry. Okay, so we like to call this kind of the inception view. So you are, this is me looking at you, looking at me, looking at you. And this view that you're seeing right now, I'm going to unspotlight myself. So the view that you're seeing right now is our gallery view. It's our 3x3 view. So if you're working with a group of students and they all have their cameras on, the smallest number you'll be able to see is 9. Now, if you're working with a group of, 4 students, you'll be able to see the 4 students plus yourself down in the little corner when you're looking at when you're working with those students in the in that setting. We also have what's called a large gallery view. So if you look in the ellipses here, this is going to give you more inside of a Teams meeting. You're going to be able to select large gallery. And large gallery is if you're working with 10 or more people. So 10 or more people have their cameras on. You're going to be able to see all of those people in that large gallery view up to 49. So how fun is this, right? We can see everyone with their cameras on. And it feels like we're in the same room together. Not exactly, but it does feel a little bit more familiar than if we were just, having a virtual meeting. And then the third view that has recently rolled out, is it okay if I just admit her? I hope. The third view that we have is our together mode view. So I'm going to click together mode. Now, together mode is something that has to be set by an individual. So if you wanted to see this mode in your computer, then you would have to go to the ellipses and you would choose together mode. So it is an individual setting, but isn't this lovely that we're all like in an auditorium type view? It looks like we're sitting next to each other. And research has actually shown that this view is so nice because it takes some of that fatigue away from all of the virtual meetings that we've been having. And it makes you feel just a little bit closer to the people that you're having that meeting with. And you guys might not have this rolled out yet, but we also have new together mode scenes. So if you look over here, I can change my scene. And it'll tell you how many people can fit in the scene at a time. But, if you had a smaller group of people, you could put them here at a desk. So now there's just 5 of us here. Or we could be in like an amphitheater type view here. So we might be watching the Roman gladiators or seeing an oration, but there are, this option is rolling out now. So once your Teams gets updated, you will have access to these scenes inside of Together mode. There's really fun scenes in here. So I know that you guys likely do some smaller group sessions. So you've got, like an ocean scene here for just 10 people. So, we can be bloop, bloop, swimming in the ocean. So there are some fun opportunities, to engage with those students that even if they're nonverbal, might have just some fun, because sometimes these virtual meetings can be just a lot and overwhelming. So those are some opportunities to sort of build that community with the kids that you're working with, but also amongst yourselves here inside of Teams meetings. And I always like to show those first because I can see the smiles on your faces and I can see that you're enjoying the meeting. So that's super fun. All right, I am going to go back out just to our large gallery. And that will be everyone on camera. Now, if your computer starts to run really slow or you just do not want to be on camera anymore, feel free to turn your cameras off. I will not be offended at all. And I may at one point turn my camera off so that my computer will run faster as well. So if it keeps running slow, I'll turn it off, but I'll leave it on so you guys know that I'm not just a person talking to a computer. I really exist. Okay, so another of the questions that we've talked to Leanne and to Rhea about is the ability to do your backgrounds in a Teams meeting. So I see that some of you on the meeting that have your computers on have figured out how to do that virtual background, and that's awesome. But for those who are still not familiar with that yet, I want to show you how you are able to change your virtual background. So, and you can show your students how to do this as well, because I know that sometimes, students are not in an ideal situation when they're learning virtually. And by that, I mean, they might be in a room with 3 or 4 other siblings or another sibling or mom and dad who are all working as well. And so being able to put that virtual background on is essential to them feeling comfortable to turn their camera on. So you can find and apply those backgrounds. First of all, you can apply those backgrounds when you join a Teams meeting. So when you click that join link, you get a box that pops up. You can turn your camera on and you can apply those background effects then. If you forget to do that, or if you want to change your background during a meeting, you can click on the ellipses. So your bar at the top, your menu bar at the top of your meeting is where you're going to find all of your meeting tools. Now, if you are using Teams on the web, your menu bar is going to be in the middle of your screen, and you're not going to be able to do the background effects, but you will be able to blur your background so that, if there's anything distracting behind you, you will have that background blur. But in the desktop app, I'm going to click those ellipses. And I'm going to scroll down here to apply background effects. And these are some of our preloaded background effects. And of course, the default is no background effect. And then you can also blur. So you have a lot of effects here that are available to you. So if you wanted to be in an office space, you could click on that and apply that. If you wanted to be in a Minecraft world, you could also be in a Minecraft world. So no, not necessary to have a green screen or to be in a room with a green background. You do have effects, or the video effects pre-built in into your Teams meeting options. You can also add new. So as you saw, I had Cinderella's castle as my background, and that was just a picture that I downloaded from the internet. And then when I clicked add new, I was able to add Cinderella's castle as the background to my meetings. And just so you know, Disney World is one of my favorite places on the whole wide world, on the whole planet. And I like to pretend that that's where I am when I'm delivering my meetings. Okay, so those are your background effects. And then I see that someone has raised their hand. So I'm going to use this opportunity to do the participants panel. Maybe. And I can see in the participants panel that Marsha's raised her hand. Marsha, do you want to come off of mute and ask your question? Were you just playing around with the tools?
I was, sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Because that's perfect. So one of the tools that's built into, into your Teams meetings is the ability to raise your hand to ask a question. So your students who, may be less apt to speak might be willing to raise their hand, to answer a yes or no question or to give you a reaction to something that you have said during your sessions. And so they can raise their hands from the raise your hand option here in your toolbar. And I'll talk about the reactions in a minute, but they can raise their hand and, react to something that you have said during your session or, to ask a question. And the way that raise your hand works in the participants panel is you can see everyone who's raised their hand, and it is listed by the person who raised their hand first. So if you've asked a question during a session and you want to call on the person who raised their hand first, you can go to this participants panel and you can see who has raised their hand. And so that makes for just a nice, quick check of understanding for those students who you are working with. Additionally, here in the participants panel, this is where you can mute your attendees. So if you have, some students who might have come off of mute and it's, you're working in a larger group and you can't figure out exactly who it is, you can mute everyone and then not allow them to come off of mute. So they aren't able to turn their microphones on, which will allow for them to focus on, what you are presenting. And then you also have the ability here to select different participants, and you can spotlight those participants. So like I was spotlighted in the beginning of our session, and the focus was on me. You can also spotlight students, so the focus is on them. Or if you are, again, in a group setting, you can pin certain students to the screen so that you're able to see those students that you're working with specifically, and then other students would be here down at this bottom row. So if you were presenting something, you could pin the students and see those students specifically, and then the rest of the students you were working with would be down below as you were presenting. You can also make your participants attendees as well, which means they would not be able to present during a session. So if you want to keep them from trying to, if you're presenting a PowerPoint and you want to keep students that you're working with from taking that presentation over or from presenting their own screens, you can make them attendees. And you also have the option of removing people from the meeting as well, in case an anonymous person comes into the meeting or there's just a moment that you need to remove someone. So that's your, this is your participant panel, and that can be found up here in the toolbar. And then next to the participant panel is your chat bubble. And I know Leanne mentioned if you have questions, please pop those questions into the chat. But I also want to talk about chat as a part of your practice as well. And Melanie, I can answer your question. This is a really great question and an awesome time for us to talk about that as well. So let me first focus on how you can use chat as part of your practice, because I think sometimes it's overlooked as something that is more, text-based and less opportunity for interaction. But if you look at the tools that you have in your chat bar, you have the ability to add emojis. So if you're working with students and you want to check their social emotional for the day, like how are you guys doing? Have you had a great morning? Like how are you feeling this morning? They can use those emojis and drop those in and give you a sense of how their morning has gone. And in fact, if you guys want to practice, I'd love to see maybe how you're feeling about Friday, or how the week has gone, or maybe what your afternoon looks like in the emoji here. So I'm going to use the snow angel monkey and send that. And then you've also got the ability to have GIFs as part of the chat as well. And this is also fun because especially for those secondary students, from 6th grade on, even 5th grade, 4th and 5th grade, they love to use those GIFs to show how they're feeling, or to, share an answer to a question, or just to be funny. So the GIFs are a great way also to interact with those students that you're working with. And then you've got stickers as well over here. And you've got a variety of stickers that you can choose from, that you can drop in as well. So there are some options inside of chat that are more than just text-based, that are going to allow you to, to get a sense of what your students are understanding, or how they're feeling for the day or during that session. Liz, that's one of my favorites. Yes, I love the Saturday Night Fever guy. He's awesome. Okay, so let me address Melanie's question. I'm going to scroll back up here. And Melanie asks, is there a way to stop students from removing others or muting others? And the answer to that is yes. It's a resounding yes. And that happens in the meeting options that you set when you schedule a Teams meeting. So I'm going to go through and show those to you all right now. Oh, Christina, y'all, that's right. Y'all are in West Virginia. It is probably pretty cold there. It's a little chilly here in Texas, but probably not as cold as it is in West Virginia. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to get to meeting options once you've scheduled a meeting inside of Teams. And then Jerry has just dropped in to the chat, and Jerry is our awesome engagement. I don't even know Jerry's true title, but she's just awesome. We worked together before. She worked at Microsoft, and she's great. But she's dropped in a chart of the roles during a Microsoft Teams meeting, but I'm going to show you how to get to those meeting options to set those roles. So I'm going to go into my Teams calendar. And this, again, if you aren't familiar with with the calendar inside of Teams, your calendar inside of Teams reflects your Outlook calendar. So what you're seeing is my appointments for this week. And I'm going to click on, I created this meeting earlier this week as a demo. So I'm going to click on this instructional design meeting, and I'm going to click edit. And I can do this in Outlook as well, but I'm going to show it to you here. And then I have a slide deck that I can share out that has other options for doing the meeting options. And then I'm going to click here on these meeting options, which opens a separate window, a separate browser window here. And I apologize for the banging. We're having some work done on our stairs, so that's what you're hearing. Okay. Let me go to another work. Sorry, you guys. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. My computer is going so slow right now.
Good morning, everybody from
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'm just gonna create a new meeting so that you guys can see what that looks like. Let's call this demo meeting. We'll have it today from 10:30 to 11, and I'll just save. I'm gonna go back to today. Here's this meeting. I'm gonna click edit. Oh my gosh.
Just out
Okay,
of-
well, I'm just kidding. Hold on.
Danielle.
I have a slide that shows this.
Yeah, and Danielle, just add me to it and the meeting options will show up.
Okay. Well, I'll just show the slide that shows you the meeting options. So when you click on meeting options, it opens in a separate browser window, and here are the options that you have. Who can bypass the lobby? And when you look at this drop-down menu, it's basically the people in your organization. So if you're working with students in a school district where you have the same email address as them, then they'll be able to get into the meeting without having to wait in the lobby. But then you also have the option there of making everyone wait in the lobby until you start the meeting, which is a really nice feature, in my opinion, because that means that students can't start a meeting without an adult being present. And then the next important piece is who can present during the meeting. So this is to Melinda's question, how do I keep students from kicking everybody out? So who can present? If you use that drop-down menu and select only me, so only the person who created the meeting is going to be allowed to present, then that makes everybody else in the meeting an attendee. And that means that they are not able to remove students from a meeting, add people to a meeting, any of that. They are simply attendees during the meeting. And then a couple of things that are new that have just rolled out, but may not have rolled out to your instances yet of Teams, but will be rolling out soon, are allowing your attendees to unmute. So if you want people who are coming to your meeting to come into that meeting on mute and not be able to unmute until you turn that feature off, that can be toggled on and off here. And then also, this is the newest request from educators and from those who, well, basically in all meetings, is to enable or disable the meeting chat. So if you don't want students to be able to use the chat when the meeting starts, then you can turn that option off and disable the chat. Students will not be able to, or attendees will not be able to chat during a meeting. So those, I believe that allow attendees to unmute has rolled out across all tenants, but allow meeting chat is slowly rolling out and should be out by middle of February, likely. So I hope that answered your question, Melinda. Oh, and Danielle, there's a Danielle, another one. Do you have a question? Oh, okay. You're on mute. Okay. All right, so those are your meeting settings, and they can be really nice, especially when like you're starting a meeting and you want to have everything set up. Maybe you're going to present something to the students that you're working with before they come in, so you can have them wait in the lobby, and then you can ensure that you're letting the right students in to the meeting. No worries, Danielle. And you know, and you can get ready for the meeting before the meeting begins. Another, and I'm going to go back to the chat. Another really nice feature of chat is that you can add resources inside of the chat that the students that you're working with can access before, during, and after your meeting. And so like Jerry's dropped in a couple of these great blog posts and some other great docs that are going to support you in Teams meetings. You'll be able to access those links even after our meeting ends. And so you can drop things like PowerPoint presentation links, links to website resources that you are going to be using with students. You can drop those into the chat during your meeting, after the meeting, or the session, and then students can still access those even, you know, after your session has ended. Another great feature of just Teams meetings in general is that you can create reoccurring meetings as well. So if you have a group of students that you work with once a week, you can schedule those once a week meetings and then use the chat with those students. You can use the chat with them, and then that chat is like perpetual, and it continues from week to week to week to week. And so as you continue meeting, it's kind of like an archive of the sessions that you've had with those students. And they can continue to return back to that chat to place GIFs or emojis or to access those resources. And I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions so far. All right. So the next piece that I want to share about meetings and chat, and I use this regularly with the group of MLCs that I work with. And I know that we are adults, but I would probably use Teams in the same way with my students if I were still in the classroom. But I basically have a monthly meeting with every MLC just to do like a little check-in, so a session, if you will. And we use that, and I'm going to move my meeting over here. We use that as a way to continue to communicate with each other and also to share files. So if you look here, and I'll use this chat as an example. So this is our chat for TCEA for this year, which is coming up at the Texas Computer Association's like big conference. And Siobhan, Monique, and I are presenting during TCEA. So we use this chat to share resources and to also, you know, continue communicating with each other, even though we aren't meeting, you know, face to face. I can add files here. So if you have, like one of the things that we talked about with Leanne and Rhea was being able to, you know, have students manipulate. If you were sitting face to face, you would put something on a table and they would be able to point to something or, you know, to circle it on a piece of paper. So one of the suggestions was to be able to add those files into the meeting chat, if you will, and students would be able to access those files from that chat. So you can take a PowerPoint presentation that you have that has, you know, manipulatives on it, like on one of your slides, and you can add it as a file inside of the chat for your meeting. But you can also add resources as well as tabs. So when I click add a tab, I get a list of the different tabs that I can add to that meeting's chat. And you can see that I can add, you know, a PowerPoint here or, you know, an Excel file or a Word file, but I can also add a website. So if there are websites that you're using, regularly with your students, you can add those website links directly as a tab in this chat. And then students can access those websites from one space instead of having to go out to the internet and try to remember the URLs for the websites that you're working with them. So when I click website, I'm going to give that website a name, and I'll use TCEA as an example. So I'll just put the TCEA website here, and then I'm going to put that website in. And I can post to the chat about the tab so that students have access to that tab right from the chat. Or, you know, I can choose not to do that. I'll just go ahead and post to the chat so you can see what that looks like. So it's posted to the chat, but also it is now a resource tab inside of the meeting that we have here, right? So here's our chat, but then also here is that TCEA website, and I can actually click through the website just as if I would click through the website if I were on the web. So it's a great way to build out those resources that you're using with students, to have them have one-step access to those resources and not have to go searching for them, you know, in a lot of different places. And I can do that here as well. So here is our meeting, our Microsoft Teams tools meeting. Here's my chat here. And I can add files, which then, you know, you and I can work on together here. And I can also add tabs as well to our meeting. And another thing that we spoke about was that students are using, many of the students you're working with are using iPads, and everything that I'm showing you is also accessible on an iPad. So as you are building out those resources for students, they can go straight to Teams, go to chat, and they're able to access those tabs from the chat for the meetings that you're having and the sessions that you're having with them. So again, I'm going to pause there and see if there are any additional questions, or and even if it's not about Teams meetings, if it's about like a feature in Teams that I could show you, we can dive into that as well.
Hi, can I ask a question this way?
Of course, yes.
I work with a lot of students who are deaf, and it's difficult for me when I'm trying to share my screen with them, let's say on a particular website, and then they also have trouble seeing me as well. So I need to be able to split the screen so they can see the content that I'm sharing, but be able to still see me. And also I see them so that we can communicate back and forth via sign. Is there any way to work around that?
So my suggestion would be to Ashley, to spotlight yourself. So you simply hover over your name and click the ellipsis and go to spotlight. And when you spotlight yourself on the screen from your view, you do not see it as a spotlight, but students will see you spotlighted and they will see what you're sharing. So it's like a split screen.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll definitely try that.
And then as far as with students, and you need to see them as well, you can pin those students so that they are like stuck to the screen, like stuck down here to the screen so that you're able to see them too.
All righty. Thank you.
Yep. Do I know why students with Chromebooks are no longer able to request control of games or activities? Jamie, are you comfortable coming off mute? I have a couple of clarifying questions.
Sure. At the beginning of the school year, like if I would use a particular website, Ultimate SLP or something, the students could request control and they could manage the game or move their game pieces on their own. We were a little late getting our Chromebooks here in Marion County, so once they got them, the students were frustrated because they were no longer able to request control. So I don't know where the block is or if there's something that they can change on their end, or if I've set up the meeting in a way that they are not able to request control anymore.
Are students joining from a class team, or are you creating just a Teams meeting?
Individual Teams meeting, and they just click the join.
Okay, and what were students using before Chromebooks?
Whatever they could use at home, desktops, with their family, and then once they got their Chromebooks, they were excited, and now it's messing up their speech sessions. So some of them have gone back to their family's, computer in order to.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because on a Chromebook, when you are using Teams, you have to use it in the browser because there's no desktop application. So I think it may be a browser limitation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. When you're using a tab like a website, is there a way to hide the chat so that the website is the only thing that you see? Aaron, yes, this is an excellent question. And the answer is yes, you can. So I'm going to go back to that TCEA chat and show you all how to do that. Maybe. Oh, where did it? There it is. So when you click on well, there used to be. Oh, okay. So we can pop out the chat. Now this is in the desktop, remember. So you can pop the website out in a separate window, and then you're able to see the website and not have to see the chat. All right. So if you share a page that is interactive, the student will be able to manipulate the cards. Yes, Jody, on the website, if you're sharing that as it's an interactive website and you share that inside of the chat, students should be able to manipulate that. And additionally, if you make the student a presenter, so the student is then able to share their screen, then they can share that website with you while they're interacting with it. And then they can, they can hear you and then manipulate the website so you can do an assessment if you need to, watching them interact with that website. Jody, are you comfortable coming off of mute to talk a little bit more about green screens?
I guess I just have seen a lot of green screens being used on other platforms during therapy to make it a little bit more not really interactive for them, but more exciting, more engaging. And I know Teams does not have that option at this time.
And what are they? What's what are they doing with the green screens?
Well, they have their own green board in the back, however sheet felt that they're making with it. And then they have their backgrounds maybe that they've imported, but then they're able to like, it looks like they're putting things like in the monster's mouth or in the old lady's mouth or apples up on the tree. They're able to like maneuver or manipulate their background to make it a little bit more engaging.
Like live?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Shannon, help me out if that's not explained well enough.
Sorry, I've not seen this.
Danielle, we talked about it, I think, during some of our initial conversations, and I think Rhea shared a video of it. So we'll be happy to go, talk about that again, because that is definitely one of the topics that we raised when we first contacted you guys. So we can
Okay.
talk about it again and make sure we can get that worked out somehow.
Okay. I mean, I have some ideas, but they're not green screen related, and we definitely can introduce those, during other sessions as well. Any other questions? Does it matter if the student is in the meeting as a guest, or do they have to be logged into an account to be able to request, manipulate activities? Karen, I'm going to say that it is always best practice that students be logged into their account when they join a Teams meeting. There are some limitations to having a guest in a Teams meeting because of the ability to access materials. So, and even after the meeting, if that particular student entered that meeting as a guest and you've added some files that you're sharing, or you've added those files as tabs, then the student will have some challenges accessing those materials. So I would say that yes, it's always best practice that students are logged into their account when they enter a Teams meeting. Is there a way for students to write on a shared PDF? Oh, okay. I'm going to hold on, Elizabeth, hold your question. I'm going to circle to Karen. So Karen, I know that Erdina is going to be on this call, and Erdina is your Microsoft Modern Workplace Specialist. And she can work with y'all about accounts for students and that sort of thing. And help address those concerns. Okay, so Elizabeth, is there a way for students to write on a shared PDF? Yes, and yes, and yes. And that way is through a OneNote notebook that you can create and share with the students that you are working with in therapy. And then you can actually insert a printout of a PDF or of a Word document or even a PowerPoint presentation, and students can use the inking tools inside of OneNote to ink on that shared document. So I can show you how to do that right quick if that's an interest. The other way that students can write on a shared PDF is if you give them the link to the PDF rather than the PDF as a file, and then students are able to open that in the Edge browser and use the inking tools inside of the Edge browser to ink on that shared PDF. But I would say use OneNote. So I'll pull my OneNote up just right quick so you guys can see.
Danielle,
Yes.
this is Annika Lafferty. I was wondering, because there's a lot of tools I've used for inking that they do not show up on the student's screen. So when I share my screen and I can see the ink, they cannot. Now, I have not tried this with OneNote, but I was just wondering and making sure that they would also be able to see that and not just the presenter.
You mean after the fact or during while you're sharing your screen?
Well, if you would, because like I said, a lot of the screen inking or marking, apps or something I've been using, I can see the marks on the PDFs or whatever, but they cannot. I can only see it on my screen.
Okay. So yes, the students should be able to see the inking on the shared PDF in OneNote. So if you share your screen and you share your OneNote screen, like you're seeing my OneNote notebook here, you're seeing Sonnet 130.
Okay.
So I can go to the draw tools here, choose, and actually I have my pen. I can choose the pen that I want to draw with. So let's say I wanted to highlight, some of the words. Can you see what I'm highlighting?
Yes.
And then if I needed to write, description of the problem, she's too ugly. I think I remember that, right? So can you see my inking? I know it's not very pretty, but.
Yes. Yes.
So when you share your screen after having inserted this printout, you share your screen, students are going to be able to see what you're inking on that PDF.
Okay, thank you.
And then I think it was Elizabeth's question, when you, in OneNote, you can actually create a notebook and share it with your students. And then students would be able to, even after you'd shared your screen and done the inking, they'd still be able to go back to that OneNote notebook and see your inking, and they'd also be able to ink as well, or even use their cursor and type directly on the PDF.
Can they do it at the same time as you are sharing it?
Yes.
They can. Okay, good.
Yes. And so I'm going to be quite honest with you. OneNote is probably, like, we have a 6-hour academy on OneNote. It is one of my favorite tools. I use it every single day, but that is going to be a totally different training, or will need to be another training. So if you guys are interested in that, I am happy to show you some of the millions of ways that it could be helpful for the students that you're working with in your therapy sessions.
You guys can include that information on the survey we're going to have you do at the end. Libby will be posting soon. And please make sure to take the time to complete that, because Microsoft is very interested in what it is you need and how they can help.
All right, and I see that Erdina has joined the meeting, so I am going to pitch it to her so she can introduce herself to y'all, and then she also has some other training opportunities that she wants to share with you from the Microsoft stores. So Erdina, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Leanne, for the opportunity to share. And thank you so much, Danielle, for the presentation. Sorry I can't be on camera today. I'm having a little bit of computer trouble, but my name is Erdina Francelon. I'm your modern workplace specialist. So I work with the account team that's dedicated to West Virginia. So, we've been working with Leanne to really hear your concerns and bubble up so we can continue to bring in great trainers like Danielle to do some what we call umbrella training, right? Things that we think apply to everyone, fundamentals, key questions, etc. But we know that each school has individual needs, right? Because of your software, hardware mix, because of the specific goals that you have within your school, within your county, or within your particular school. So, I just wanted to jump on to let you know that while we're going to continue to partner to do these type of big trainings, if you want to go deep on a particular topic for your school, and maybe bring in some other educators, bring in sort of and going deep within the scenarios that you have and the needs of your students, as part of your agreement, the statewide agreement, we offer that training at no charge. So we're able to come in, really build a training plan with you, and other folks within your school about where you'd really like to build your skills. So I was going to show a slide that outlines all the different training aspects that we have. Well, actually, I might just be able to if my computer starts working again, but I'll definitely drop it in the chat. Oh, there we go. All right, so you're all able to see and hear me, hopefully. And so, so like I said, you know, for your individual needs within your county, please, you know, Leanne's gonna be sharing our contact information. Look forward to hearing and seeing more from us in this forum, but please do not hesitate to reach out, because we really do exist to work directly with you and to build plans specifically for the different counties. So I just wanted to show quickly, if I could find you guys. Here we are. And this is why we need trainings with folks like Danielle to help us with those best practices. But this is you know, one of the great things that has come, you know, there's been a lot of unfortunate pieces, of course, about of the pandemic, but it's also encouraged us to work differently, right? And to think about how we better serve teachers and students across the country. And so one of the things that has come from that is that our training team that used to be focused on particular states are now nationwide. So we really want to build deeper connections with educators and students across the nation, especially in West Virginia. We have a really great partnership at the state level, but you know, are looking to really hear from you and your individual needs. So this is a catalog, if you can see my screen, of some of the training that we provide. Level 100 training on things like breakout rooms that didn't used to exist in Teams, but now does. Level 100 on Teams meetings, Teams overall for education, OneNote, PowerPoint, Word, and then we also provide student and parent workshops. So STEM, coding, creativity, virtual field trips, etc. So again, that was just an overview. I'll share this with Leanne and get that out to you, and looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Danielle.
Danielle, thank you, Ardina. We're glad you were able to join. Danielle, I think there's one more question from Aaron. Can you see that? And could you answer it in like a minute or two?
Yes, ma'am. Hi. I just answered in the chat, but
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. There is a way to type on that PDF that's inserted in OneNote. You can just double click on that PDF, and then that will create a text box, and you can type directly into that text box. And it looks like it's typing on the PDF. The text boxes are movable, but if you set that PDF as your background and then use those text boxes, it's where you want them. That should do exactly what you need it to do.
Thank you so much. We can't thank Microsoft enough for being with us today and for planning to be with us in the future and to try to meet your needs as far as telepractice and using Teams. And Libby said she didn't hear me at the beginning, and maybe that's the reason Danielle didn't know I was ready for her to start. I was probably talking the whole time and muted, but I apologize for that. But there is a survey for you to complete to receive a certificate of attendance, because you can use this for professional development hours. Please, there are some questions on there too that we will be sharing with Microsoft to help plan our trainings for the future. So please take the time to do that. It shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to complete the whole thing. But please, plan to do that. We'd like to thank Ardina and Danielle and Jerry for being with us today. And I hope that you got some basic foundational information that you can begin using in therapy right now. When we talked with them and they demonstrated some of these tools, Rhea and I felt that it would be important for you to get some of these foundational things first, that honestly you probably hadn't even had time to think about or look for or know that were available. So as we plan our next training, we'll use your survey results. And thank you so much for being here, everyone. We appreciate it. And we will see you next month.